about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So this headline got me head scratching. There's a headline from The Independent saying London heatwave has killed 263 people, with climate crisis to blame for most. And this was a study. They said an extra 263 people died in London during the recent heat wave. Scientists have estimated that it was because the climate crisis has tripled the number of heat-related deaths across European cities. Global heating, or their probably term for global warming, they say caused primarily by humans burning fossil fuels and cutting down forests, make the searing temperatures that gripped much of Europe in late June and early July. Now, I was in Europe in 2017 and 2019. Oh, it's hot. Now, I've lived in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's hot. Although I got to tell you, and knock on wood, I really don't want to jinx it, but we have had a mild summer considering in Southern Nevada. This has kind of been, it's going to get bad soon, but yeah, I mean, here we are inching towards mid-July, and we kind of got off easy in July. So I was like, not too bad. But saying that the climate crisis is to blame for the heat wave, this I don't like as a doctor, as a scientist. All right, if you're having a heat wave, if you're having catastrophic flooding in Texas, okay, those are already crises. That's crisis enough. A heat wave is, of course, a crisis. Flooding is a crisis. We have had heat waves. We have had drought since biblical time. We have had flooding since biblical time. And if people want to call the drought a crisis, that's fine. You know, we've seen droughts. The Dust Bowl was a crisis. Okay? You know, we do get these weather patterns that unfortunately become crises for us. But they want to lump in, when things happen, the political aspect of climate change. And you see how The Independent had said this. It's humans burning fossil fuels and cutting down forests. I tell you why I get nervous. Okay? It's only a matter of time, and it's already started, where officials are going to recommend depopulation. If they are really blaming humans for heating up the world, and they don't get convinced that our buying electric cars is going to do the trick, and electric vehicles aren't going to fix the climate crisis, because we are going to always have floods, heat waves, droughts, superstorms, hurricanes, snow, blanketing, cities in the winter. My worry is that they're going to say, well, it's too many people. Now, right now, what they're doing is they're placating us, saying, well, what we need to do is we all need to work together and, not fart and not eat meat and not do X, Y, and Z. And, we're like, oh, yeah, we're going to help the climate. We might not. Okay, there are powers that are beyond what your and my hamburger or veggie burger can do. We talked about one issue our world is having is the heaviness on the land. The more we build, the more people we have, the heavier and the more warm the land gets. Well, electric vehicles are heavy cars. Electric vehicles shoot out a bunch of tire waste. The putting in all the electrical grids is also weighing on the earth. And my worry is if the scientists finally wake up and go, I don't think the humans can prevent this, I worry that what they're going to do is come up with, because I'm sorry, I don't think I and you can prevent, right, the next hurricane or the next snowstorm. They're saying we, the people, have that ability. I really don't see how. Yes, I do think we need to pollute less. I think we can save the fish. I think we can save our coral reefs. I think we can deforest less. But I don't think you and I are going to fix hurricane season or snowstorms or prevent the next biggest earthquake, which means they're going to step it up and say, because of the climate, because of this is a crisis, we're going to have to sacrifice more. And if you ask AI, why are we having quote unquote climate change, depending on who's inputting all the information into these computers, they're going to say it's the people. And it's too many people. I love the fact that our population is growing. We got a big planet. But what if our health officials or public officials or AI goes, you need to depopulate? And that's going to save the climate. You're already hearing people walk around saying, yep, we need to save the climate, we need to save the globe. Whatever we're doing for climate change and green energy and all that, it's going to help our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. Yet the tariffs, they had no patience for. But the tariffs, they were like, no, we need to fix this before the Wall Street opens tomorrow. But in terms of climate change, like, we need to do this for our kids and grandkids. So when are they going to tell us to stop populating? Or when are they going to recommend depopulation? Are they going to, God forbid, recommend that individuals who are sick or elderly not get medical intervention? That's what's going to come next, people. And we let the media keep blaming us humans for world. Now, mind you, the flooding in Texas, could there have been preventative dams, levees, things like that? Yes, there, maybe. But we're talking about natural disasters. How much do humans really have the ability? 1-877-DOC-DALI.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So we have a lot to get to today, but I want to just take a minute to thank you guys. I have been doing radio now for 16 years. It's a lot. Yeah, and it's interesting because my voice was a lot higher when I listened to my earlier shows. Like, hi, this is the Dr. Daliah Show. And I'm like, hi, it's the Dr. Daliah Show. So you could tell I went through menopause. Boy, I tell you, that loss of estrogen has really changed my voice. But I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you guys. There's a lot of individuals I want to thank. I mean, God bless my producer, Daniel. I'm grateful to my network, Talk Media Network. I'm grateful to GCN Network, who was my home for years. Grateful to XM Satellite Radio, KDON, 101.5 FM. I have been with since the beginning in 2009. And Talkers Magazine comes out with the top 100 list. And I was very, very grateful to make the list. I know many of you think there's only, 99 or 100 people, but there's a lot of people in radio and really good people. And I'm really, really grateful that I was included in this list. But, I keep getting asked from people, will radio survive? Is radio going to survive? Well, I got to tell you, after you see these catastrophes, the Joplin, Missouri, tornado, the flooding in Texas, when you see the storms and the natural disasters, which we just kind of spoke about in the last segment, a radio is a part of the emergency broadcast system, and radio needs to continue to survive. Now, I know there's shows like mine on there, but it gets I don't want to use the word hijacked. We don't want to use the word hijacked because it's in a good way. It gets preempted. So if there's an emergency or an emergency broadcast message, our shows get preempted. And whether it's AM radio, FM radio, these signals go far. We rely a lot on our entertainment on digital and the internet. Well, God forbid there is an attack. Cyber attack. God forbid there's, we're in war. There's, the cellular and the Wi-Fi and the digital aspect of messaging, even though we need it. And, we all need alerts. God forbid many people didn't get the alerts during the flooding 4th of July in Texas. But we can't just rely on that. And when we saw that electric vehicles and some of the newer vehicles were saying, we don't need radio, it interferes with the signal. Really? No, we do. And I understand a lot of shows on radio span different levels of politics. Maybe the majority are conservative, but you also have NPR and liberal, and radio gives us a voice. I went into radio. I told for those of you who don't know the story, for those of you who've been listening for 16 years, you know the story. But we're starting a recession. I know everybody says the recession ended in 2009, but it was the start where I lived, where people were starting to get fired. And that didn't end for years, where every week casinos were just dumping employees. And it was a rough time. And I had been doing a lot of community work. So people were calling my office saying, I just need to ask you a question. I know I'm not your patient, but I'm losing my insurance. What do I do about this? And I saw that there was a need for people to get some medical advice. And how do you give medical advice online? And I talked to one of my friends, Mark from Mark and Mercedes, who was on 94.1 at the time. And he said, just, do a show. I go, do I have to go to broadcasting school? And he goes, no. People could use, hearing your advice. So I went to KLAV and I bought airtime once a week show. And they let me do that. And it was very popular, such that a few weeks later, the bigger station said we could have you come on and start doing a weekend show. And then it went from weekend to 5 days a week. And here I am today still doing radio. And I'm really, really grateful because I wouldn't be here if you guys weren't listening. But the main reason why I did it, because you don't make money in radio. The main reason why I did it was so I could teach and I could be able to reach a wider audience with education. And when, I found out that there were people sitting at home bleeding from hemorrhoids and afraid to go to a doctor, I would hope that maybe if they were on the radio listening and they would hear, me talk about how it's pretty easy to get through some screening and I've gone through the same thing, and that maybe I'll get them out of their house and to a doctor. And the greatest gift of radio was being able to reach people who you might never have been able to reach. People always ask, what's the difference between podcasting and radio? My show is podcasted. I'm very grateful for Talk Media Network and Daniel for podcasting the show as well. Podcasting allows you to be on all the digital platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, iHeart, all of those. But you have to either actively look or it has to either get shuffled in. With radio, you in your cars, in your homes, can turn it on and it's there. And so it's a different medium. And many people on radio podcast, and some people who podcast are also on the radio. But the medium of radio, even though it's one of the oldest, I think is still going to last because you don't have a lot of safety nets as it pertains to emergency broadcasting and as it pertains to people being introduced to what's out there. It's interesting because we have right now, if you look at television, if you want to see a movie, let's say Sophie's Choice or Dances with Wolves or whatever, you could go in, plug it in, and see where it's streaming, and you could either buy it or watch it. But the majority of what people watch is their regular TV. They want to watch the news. They want to know what's going on. So you could escape into a podcast or into a TV show, but if you want to be connected in real time, you watch regular TV, or you watch, in fact, TV can alert you, can send alerts and tell you, look, this is the weather, this is what's going on, we're interrupting this broadcast with this message, etc. And so, when people say, oh gosh, radio's dying, I have been hurt for 16 years. I have been told that radio's dying. I remember somebody saying, why are you going into radio? You should go into TV. I go, look at me. Nobody wants to see me. Of course I'm doing radio. And then you're in radio and they go, well, you got to get on video. People have to see you. I never thought that. You have to be out there and seen. But, I'm grateful for whoever wants to see me. But I've been in radio for 16 years. And I remember 16 years ago, them saying the same thing. When you hear companies, though, try to say we don't need radio in the cars, there could be some political incentive there. They could be, trying to not have the, very common personalities out there that they might not like, especially if they're conservative. And so don't let radio go. And for those of you that are mixed politically or on one side or the other, I don't care where you are politically, but there has to be a voice. And another thing that makes radio so awesome is, I was on KDON Live. So my show is live now in the mornings, but it plays delayed. And so here I am. I'm filling in for the Steve Sanchez show. I love Steve Sanchez. Great show. From 3 to 6 p.m. last night. And calls were able to come in. And radio allows you guys to have a voice. It's not just what I say on a podcast. You're able to call in. You can even call in now if you want. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-362-3254. And then voice your questions, voice your concerns. You can't do that. You can't go on Fox News or MSNBC or CNN and say, hi, this is my opinion. You aren't going to get on. You can't get on a podcast, maybe some, if they're taking guests. The only place your voice could be heard is radio. And if poop rolls downhill or something happens and you're like, I want to let my congressman know, I want to let people know how I feel about this, who are you going to call? Don't say Ghostbusters. You're going to probably call the local radio station. And hopefully that local radio station will get you on. You have a much higher chance of getting on the air with a local radio station or national, than the other mediums. And so when I hear that there are powers that be that want to get rid of radio, that's silencing. There is no reason to get rid of radio. People say, Dr. Daliah, no, it's all digital now. Radio was old school. No. Okay, there are some old school things we need to keep. There's a lot of old school things we need to keep. And I would not get rid of that. Even if I later don't be on radio and I just podcast. You know, podcasting's easier. You actually can make more money in podcasting than radio. But even I'm still going to advocate that radio always exists. So I'm grateful to you guys. I'm honored by being named to the Talkers Magazine. I really appreciate all you guys' support, and keep radio alive. 1-877-Doc Daliah. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So I've been accused of being pro-pharmacy, and you know what? That's an honor. It is a huge honor. You know, the other day I had to get something because a family member had needed something pretty urgently. I just walk into a CVS, and 99% chance I know they're going to have exactly what I need. Whether it's bandages, whether it's cough, cold medication, whether it's a test strip, whether it's food, whether it's makeup. The convenience of these pharmacies, let alone having pharmacists and pharmacy techs there that help give advice and dispense medications. I don't want to see these pharmacies go. And I am really, really grateful for companies like CVS. They're actually also educating people, which is, I'm really excited about this, our next guest. But the impact they make on our healthcare system, I mean, it's like the roots of your teeth. You need them. And I am so grateful for the work that they do. Now, it's hot. And we have hectic schedules. And, we might not necessarily stay on top of the things we should be doing for our health. I'm really excited for our next guest. Lifestyle expert Lizzie Mathis is teaming up with CVS Pharmacy to share her tips for staying well over the summer. She's a mom of 3, founder of the Cool Mom Code podcast. It is a cool podcast. And Lizzie knows the importance of taking care of herself and her family. So she's going to discuss affordable, easy-to-pack essentials that support summer wellness, probiotics, hydration boosters, sunscreen, crave-worthy snacks that CVS Pharmacy has available. So I'm really, really grateful. Lizzie Mathis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wow. So, I'm trying to plan a quick trip this weekend. Grabbing sunscreen. It was another thing when I was at CVS. I was grabbing some essentials. Talk to us about why it's so hard for families to get this right and stay on top of what they need to do for the summer.
Well, I think you said it right there. Quick trips, right? Those are plentiful during the summer. So let's talk about it. Quick trips are a norm. And then now you're talking summer camps for kids. And if you have multiple kids, then you're talking about multiple different drop-offs of summer camps. You're talking about just more of a chaotic, hectic schedule, pop-up barbecues, you name it. There's 1,000 things going on. And sometimes with all that chaos, it's just hard for families to keep their health and wellness goals top of mind.
It's true, one thing I'm noticing because I always remind people, get your sunscreen. And it's very interesting, the psychology behind that, because people will buy bulk, at one of these big box stores, and then they'll have expired sunscreen and they're like, well, I'm not going to buy more because I have old sunscreen that I never used. And, no, maybe don't buy the bulk, maybe buy what you need that's fresh, new, that would be some of my tips. What other, tips do you recommend to families?
Hey, you know what? You're absolutely right, because you'll be surprised how much we'll use that sunscreen during the summer. So making sure you have one that is not expired and up to date is going to be really important. But it's also going to be like finding those deals, right? Like CVS has a lot of summer deals. They have weekly deals. Sometimes you'll find a lot of these things $5 and under. That's when you stock up and save. That's when you actually go and buy that SPF. As many, as you think you'll need, because during the summer, you're using a lot more of those type of summer wellness products. You're eating a lot more of those wellness type snacks, right? So it's really important to keep those top of mind when you're out doing your shopping, when you're thinking ahead, when you're buying snacks for your trip, or even out and about on those busy summer days. These are things to keep top of mind to make your days a lot easier.
They also have good sales. I noticed, I've been, shifting a lot of my buying from these big box stores to, CVS. I noticed the sales are fantastic. Plus, you have the points system, right, with CVS?
Oh, yes, that's right. You have the CVS rewards, right? So, the extra care members are going to get even more savings sometimes than you just going in and shopping normally. So make sure you sign up for that. That's a really good tip. But also it's about keeping all these things in mind when you're shopping, and that's how you're going to save. Because even though it's the summer months, we're spending a little bit more during the summer because we're out, we're taking those trips, just like you mentioned. We're kind of splurging a little bit. We kind of lose sight of our budgets. But keeping the sales and those deals top of mind help, because those savings are going to come. You're going to appreciate it so much more at the end of the summer when you saved on all those essentials that you grabbed.
And one thing I've noticed is when I take the kids, or when I would take the kids out of town, we actually saved money because they ate less. They streamed less. They were spending less on their, it's really interesting when you look at the budget. And, it is, you're right. It's kind of intimidating when people are looking at their budget, then they go, wait a second, it's only July and we're still trying to keep the kids active. But, also back to school, I'm already noticing, there's a lot of cool back to school items also. So I definitely, want parents to take a look at that, because in some of our areas, school starts in 4 weeks. So you'll definitely get some deals there too.
Oh yeah. I mean, absolutely. Back to school is going to be a big one, And also, I think when I think of back to school and the summer, I think of snacks. I think of lunches. I think of those sort of things, right? We're right back into the swing of it. So when they're home during the summer, they're eating snacks nonstop. When they're back to school, we're packing those snacks. So even that's a good time to stock up on those too. And what's great about CVS is they have the Well Market line, which is over 200, varieties of snacks that have the health kind of content in mind. I love the freeze-dried raspberry flavored apples, that they have. That's 1 cup of serving right there is a 1 cup of fruit equals 1 serving. I mean, that's awesome. You're not going to get that any better, with these like flavorful snacks that they have. So keeping that in mind too is going to be really important.
We're speaking to Lizzie Mathis, founder of the Cool Mom Code podcast. There are store brands that are now evolving to meet today's health and wellness needs. Like you said, the frozen fruit. I think we as a society are really going to start moving away, from the junk food and looking more towards health. Talk to us about what CVS, pharmacies have to offer.
Well, I think it's great, and I'm so happy to partner up with CVS this summer, and I really stand behind them because, brands are paying attention. We care about what we're feeding ourselves, and we care about what we're feeding our families. We want the best of the best now, and we know better, right? So with that in mind, CVS is really stepping up to the plate, not only with their Well Market snacks, but also with their CVS health products. We talked a little bit about even just this 50 SPF stick, right? Like things like that in their after sun recovery with aloe vera, coconut oil. These are ingredients that people really care about putting on our skin to really help us heal and nurture and, get that moisture back after sunny days. But these are the products that I'm talking about. It kind of goes beyond even just the snack aisle. You want to make sure that you're putting things on your body that are well and good, as well as putting them in your body. And so CVS is really stepping up to the plate with that.
Oh, yeah. I've seen, I was looking for one of my friend's bikes and he always gets, a really bad rash, where. So I was looking at the powders and things. I was like, hey, you got to get this powder over here at CVS. No, but eczema, heat rash. It's and then calamine, a biggie, right, for these itchy rashes. Lizzie, we're coming up at the end of the segment. I can't believe it went so fast. Lizzie, any information you want to give my listeners?
Yeah, you know what? Even though it's summer and even though there's all the things going on, enjoy it. I really do. Just enjoy the summer. Spend time with your family. Make sure that you check out cvs.com/summer for all those wellness deals. Head over to thecoolmom.co for all those lifestyle tips and tricks. We've got you covered, but make sure you just have fun out there.
Love it. Oh, well, can't wait to have you back. Can't wait to listen to your Cool Mom Code podcast. And you have a great summer.
Thank you. Same to you. Can't wait to talk soon.
All right, guys, don't go away. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So as expected, Biden's personal physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, is pleading the fifth. He doesn't want to self-incriminate, which really makes you scratch your head going, I wonder why. So he served as President Biden's physician while President Biden was in office, and while we were asking day after day, what's wrong with our president? Is he okay? He's our commander in chief. Can we take care of him? And from what we have learned from Politico, Dr. Kevin O'Connor has refused to testify in a closed-door interview as part of the House GOP probe into Biden's mental acuity and whether his inner circle sought to conceal his limitations from the public. Another question, not only about the mental acuity, is did President Biden have stage 4 cancer to the brain? while he was in office as well. Now, we found out a few months after he left office that he had metastatic cancer to his bones. But, when you have cancer, especially metastatic, you are not in the fittest of health. I think those questions should also be addressed as well. And that's why I think the Biden team waited till after he left office to bring it up. But odd when we were told his prostate was fine. So, as a doctor, the medical community has a lot of splaining to do because of Dr. O'Connor. And we can't let people think doctors suck and that doctors don't know what they're doing, especially the doctor to the commander-in-chief. So early today, he asserted doctor-patient privilege and his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. According to a statement from his attorneys, he had repeatedly argued his duties as a doctor complicated his ability to testify under oath about his patient, preventing him from sharing some sensitive information. So according to the statement, it said, on the advice of his legal counsel, Dr. O'Connor refused to answer questions that invaded the well-established legal privilege that protects confidential matters between physicians and their patients. His assertion of his right under the Fifth Amendment to decline to answer questions, also on the advice of his lawyers, was made necessary by the unique circumstances of this deposition. So, the decision not to participate now, I think, fuels more concern of cover-up and of medical negligence. And people always ask, well, Dr. Daliah, what about HIPAA? Doesn't Biden have privacy? Well, it depends. If it's a legal proceeding, medical boards are able to subpoena records. Judges are able to subpoena medical records. In a legal proceeding, depending on what the case is, also, we're dealing with the commander-in-chief. However, somebody could say, yeah, but now it's after the fact. He's not the commander-in-chief now. So now he gets privacy. But, so it's tricky. I really do believe that even public officials should have privacy. But if you are the one holding the football or supposed to be hitting the red button and making decisions where our men and women in the military and our federal workers and our citizens are you're making life or death decisions about national security, then it is our business. We need to know that you're of sound mind and healthy. We also, as the American people, need to know who's running the country. Now, they'll tell us, let's say Trump or Obama, remember when they had their colonoscopies? They said, look, it was done. They had a colonoscopy and the vice president was in charge. And before anybody could, get their panties all up in a bunch, it was already done. And they're like, Obama's back at, in the Oval Office. So before anybody could get all concerned, I think Bush had his colonoscopy because you're under anesthesia. So then vice president's in charge, but they don't tell you when that happens. They tell you after the fact. So everybody doesn't have a cow, also for security measures. So, we do have some leeway as it pertains to how healthy is our commander-in-chief who made the decisions, and were those decisions legit? And so an argument the GOP is making is if Biden pardoned a whole bunch of criminals, are those valid if he didn't really do the pardoning or if he wasn't of sound mind? So, when you look at some of the executive orders, when you look at some of the things that he had done, are they valid? And I don't know how far the GOP could go with this. Usually, the medical board would get involved. Now, I don't know which states O'Connor is licensed in. My guess is it would be Virginia and Maryland, because he operates he works in D.C. But the medical board should get involved. They might not. But if a medical board gets a complaint, and if somebody says, I believe this doctor is doing harm, they have to investigate that doctor. And if you say, look, I think he missed Biden's cancer, I think he didn't take care of him, And even though Biden has left office, there are other patients that O'Connor is taking care of. They could be at risk if this doctor is that incompetent and negligent. Dear medical board, please evaluate if he should still hold a medical license. Now, in O'Connor's defense, if Biden refused medical care, then he would submit that to the medical board. If the medical board investigated him saying, look, there's been complaints, there's been concerns over missing diagnoses and negligence, usually it has to come from the family, but you can, as a concerned citizen, complain to the medical board and ask for an investigation. And then the medical board can privately look at the records, and they will subpoena the records and say, look, your license is under review. There's been this complaint. We're investigating this complaint. Let's look at the records. And if the records show Biden signed an AMA against medical advice, I didn't want this test, that could protect O'Connor. But then the next question is if Biden was not of sound mind, does he get to refuse medical care? Well, somebody has to evaluate him and deem him incompetent or incoherent or unable to make his own medical decisions. So it's a stretch. I mean, maybe not a stretch for you and I to see, but in terms of the logistics of it all, it's a stretch. So what happens next? Well, O'Connor arrived on Capitol Hill, so he's not going to be in contempt. He did show up, left less than an hour, probably saying, I plead the fifth. And then, they say the fifth does not imply an underlying crime. It's a strategy taken by innocent people, they say, to avoid being coerced into making incriminating statements. I don't think he's going to be coerced. I mean, I'm not an attorney, but the questions I would ask is, the average person with memory lapses publicly gets a cognitive test. Did you perform a cognitive test? Yes or no? No. What was behind that decision to not perform the cognitive test? We're not incriminating him. Did Biden get that testing? Did Biden get a scan of the brain to look at atrophy, to see why there could be memory losses, to check for cancer because of some of his behavior? You said he had a thorough neurological exam. Did that include an MRI of the brain? And if it did, what did the MRI of the brain show? I can't talk about medical details, okay? Did the MRI, without details, warrant further evaluation? I can't. I mean, it's the commander in chief. You answer the questions, and we make sure that the future doctor of the presidency does not only a decent job, does the standard of care. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.